One of the things that excites me about teaching introductory psychology is the chance to introduce students to scientific literacy and learning how to think critically. It's something that Sandy Hockenberry has embraced over the years she's worked on this book, and that I have been honored to contribute to. This focus on scientific literacy is especially important as misinformation becomes more and more of a problem. I want to give students the tools they need to navigate the sort of information jungle that we live in today. That's always been a major goal in guiding principle of discovering psychology, and it continues to be a major focus in the 9th edition. Many of the pedagogical features focus on building scientific literacy. Each chapter begins with a myth or science feature that challenges common misconceptions about psychology. We have critical thinking boxes that explore topics like emotions in animals, evolution and overeating, and how to think like a scientist. Speaking of critical thinking, one of my favorite features is the Think Like a Scientist digital activities that are part of the book's Achieve course. These walk students through the process of evaluating specific claims about topics like fitness apps, eyewitness memory, and detecting lies. They're really interactive and great for getting students to build good critical thinking habits when faced with seemingly scientific claims in advertising or news. Besides those features, I'm really excited about some of the new coverage of the replication crisis and the open science movement that we've included in the new edition. Data ethics is really important in psychology right now, so it's really important to introduce students to ethical practices like pre-registration, effect size, and the problem of weird samples. The fact that we rely too much on samples from societies that are weird, Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. New for this edition, we welcomed neuroscientist Abigail Baird of Vassar College. She's the principal investigator of the Laboratory for Adolescent Science, and her research on the teenage brain has tons of interesting applied findings. She updated all of our coverage on neuroscience, development, and motivation and emotion, and integrated coverage of neuroscience throughout the chapters. Just looking at the new neuroscience art in the chapter will give you a sense of how much the chapter has been updated. Our strengths complemented each other well, and the result is a robust introduction to some of the latest neuroscience research, though of course presented at a very accessible level. One area where we've grown in this edition is our coverage of diversity. Discovering Psychology has always been a book that students of all backgrounds can relate to, but this edition increases our wide range of representation. We took a critical look at what we were doing well and what we still needed to improve. We've thoroughly updated the photo program to focus on positive representations that defy stereotypes. We added classic research by women and people of color throughout the book, something that introductory psychology books have historically had a problem with, focusing on the same handful of big-name psychologists. In this new edition, we show students how people from a lot of different backgrounds have contributed to the field of psychology in exciting and meaningful ways. How so many more people from underrepresented backgrounds should be big-name psychologists. One of the most notable changes is that we've now incorporated a complete chapter on gender and sexuality. This was always a feature of the longer version of the book, but given how fast we're learning about the complexities of sex and gender, the material deserved its own chapter in discovering psychology. We did a thorough review with GLAD to ensure that the language we're using is up to date and respectful of people of all sexes, gender identities, and sexual orientations. This edition of Discovering Psychology represents a sort of turning point in our franchise. We know that there's an increasing demand for briefer books, so we're officially retiring the long version. With experience, we've realized that we can be more efficient in the ways in which we write and teach, and we can still include all the great content we want students to learn, but without overwhelming them. The future is a leaner, more engaging introductory psychology book, and that's what we've done here. Despite adding the chapter on gender and sexuality, this edition is actually fewer pages than the previous one, and we did it without sacrificing any important content. I'm really pleased that the book is going to be part of Macmillan's new Achieve platform. For anyone who's used Launchpad, Achieve basically takes all the best parts of Launchpad and makes them far easier to use and assign. So we're delivering all of the great videos and activities and the adaptive quizzing of learning curve that students and instructors love. It's all super user-friendly, and the analytics are incredibly useful for teaching. Achieve can deliver some great details on where students are struggling, and there are lots of great resources that make it easy to offer targeted support to students who need it. It means that both students and instructors, when it comes to building their understanding of psychology, can work smarter, not harder.